They only survive on your fear. Darkness has no energy. But if they wished, or if they could, or if there was not ignition of pockets of light so great as we have created, which you do not see, that all the Greats have to do is, as I said, turn off your computer base. Want to know about depression and chaos? You'll be done with a flick of a switch. I don't feel it will be. But something has to change to bring humankind into balance. And there will be something happen. I do not believe it will be a total shift of the earth. In fact, I can say ye verily it will not. You may have economic shifts because it's so out of balance. Your willingness to prostitute yourself to the material world, that outer world, that world that says this is who I am, when your inner self knows it isn't. You don't know what else to do. What do? You still have to make a living. You still raise your kids. You still try to get them to school when you're in university. You have car payments. You do all the things that everybody else does because they do it. You can't be seen to be different. So we're polarized. Totally and utterly polarized. If that's what you believe, then you will never become the creator of your reality. If, as we believe, these two dark holes, Washington and New York, were saved, as was California when we were there, all the predictions, the world will not stop a group this powerfully infused and with the level of resonance we can bring in. Nothing. So if one is concerned about their financial abundance, then the best way to deal with the financial abundance is to deal with their spiritual abundance. Energy is energy is energy. If you can satisfy your spiritual abundance, you can spiritualize your and bring in an abundant life in every sense of the word. If you say for one fleeting second that I can't do that, I'm not worthy, I don't know how, then it will not be yours. And you keep the human element out of what it is you're trying to bring in, for it only weakens the situation as it does with your religion, as it does with everything. Now, because thoughts are things and thoughts are so powerful, even fourth dimensionally, or particularly fourth dimensionally. Well, we're rolling right along here. How often does the earth need to have an oil change? No. Since the earth changes have been modified, well, yeah, we've already answered that. No, Lemuria and Atlantis will not have happened what was predicted. The aqua blue color that we speak of is this color. The question is, it could be a little lighter than that also. It's simply gold in clear crystal. It's wonderful. But it's very, very powerfully infused in the earth now. That's the color. And if you want a metallic view of it, that's the color. Thank you, Mary. Where are you, Mary? Or whoever. Well, we're really flying here now. I don't even like that show. Oh, where to go? This FPO me, FPO me. It does confuse me. The littlest things. Don't give me now that I've turned everything over. To go to a Chinese restaurant is a nightmare. So the menu that's more than 3 would take me a week. It's quite noticeable now, isn't it? What are effective ways to ask to be taught at the galactic level? I remember almost every night to ask. Now this is something that I think is apparent with many of you, because you do not have the memory of having been here or there. When you worked with Shambhala, you didn't remember going there. Remember, this is the etheric body, or prior to in Shambhala, where you used your astral body. If you remember Dwal's writings, he spoke of using the astral and the etheric when after he had completed Anchorage's fifth, what he called the fifth initiation. So to Shambhala, you needed the astral. At this level of consciousness, you need the etheric, but it's so encompassing with higher self. This higher self you're just getting to know. And when you wish, really, it doesn't matter, just know that you were there. You resonate more and more fifth dimensionally. Higher self. Go over these tapes that we have done so wonderfully, and it will tell you much more than the mind can grasp, or that resistance or sense of overwhelm, as much as come in. You get a sense of aligning with higher self. Yeah, that's what you're all doing. And you can ask to be recoded. Remember me speaking of recoding? Because that's the best way to learn. Open yourself to it. Trust that all is well. The best way to learn is to turn your free will to the totality of who you are. Free will is very confusing for many of us here. It's so stereotyped, so dark. Works wonderfully having no free will. So turn it over. You need enough personality to function. You need enough ego to get to the door. So tell, express yourself and ask and be open to recoding. You can invite it, gentle ones, it's there. We can recode this and we won't this one because there's nothing. It doesn't work quite that way. It's all the cosmic resonance of vibration. Who and what you do and what you will become. You still believe Jesus will be the last pope? I wouldn't wish it on him. I like Jesus. what we wrote was that a shift in just 5 years. A being called Ogmios was being overshadowed by the one you called Jesus, or Sananda. Much more complex than that. But this being was a priest in Czechoslovakia, and he's given up on the darkness of the church. And he cannot be persuaded, and yet it's not the mission of Jesus this time. If he comes in at all, it will be with Ashtar. If he comes in at all, it will be with Ashtar. I will not say that he won't overshadow somebody, but prefer him with Ashtar. Oh, here's 3 yellow ones. She loves me not. In what levels are the Ekankar practitioners traveling? I don't normally, I knew Paul Twitchell, so I don't like to get into this type of thing. Just let me say not very high. They're very astral, gentle ones, very astral. Very astral. Is light a material form of energy? It's a reflection, is it not? There is no light. It has to reflect off something. When one goes beyond the material into pure energy, can it be experienced as darkness or a place? Oh, I see, this is the same person. Twitchell spoke of the dark zone, the one that the only planet of choice writes of is the cold zone. Any of you read the only planet of choice? Well, first of all, the Council of Nine is a very oblique thing. I agree with much of what they say. They understand Earth extremely well. And they say they're from the cold zone. Twitchell spoke of the dark zone. These levels are not that very elevated. They're certainly beyond the Earth and its astrals, put it that way. But I ask you in all of your discernment to understand one thing. When you hear an opinion expressed, for the most part, by people who channel, they are saying to you, they asked the question was, in the only planet of choice, for this Council of Nine. I've never heard of a Council of Nine when the elders, when there are 24 elders, don't they get along? I can see 12 and 12, 12 positive and 12 negative as a balance as we perceive polarity. But 9? What happened to the other 3? Tuberculosis is no longer... They don't get cancer. These are the ones that John spoke of. John the Baptist, he wasn't John of Revelation. John the Baptist wrote Revelation. The other one didn't know Greek. Not that it matters. So you have, this is Ekankar, I know. The dark zone, the cold zone, and these are not levels of consciousness that are very high. But for their point of view, they see themselves as the ring path is not. Your elders in Revelation, when asked, are they God? Almost. Is Jehovah Jesus? Yes. Is Jesus God? Yes. Get it, little ones, you are all God. This is, I think, something was lost in the transition. So the ring passes, and if you sit in something that seems phenomenally incredible compared to earth plane, as the fifth astral heaven shows you, all of you have been at that level of consciousness, and you said, oh, finally, I'm in heaven. Oh, God, it's wonderful, isn't it, Gertrude? Oh, Gertie, we finally got here. Oh, wouldn't I, dear Mom, be pleased to see me now? It has nothing to do with heaven. It has nothing to do with the God source. It has nothing to do with spirituality. It's a trap man created their heaven in their view of the likeness of God. Very nice. So, the 9 in there's very good channeling. It's worth reading just to get the dates right about some of the events on Earth, but not to get tied in with who they are. They're very limited, very, very limited. And I would suggest that they come down and do help, because they were more responsible for the seeding. We're talking about the 24 elders, the 24 civilizations on this earth, than anyone else was. It's time for them to invite themselves, or for you to invite them, to clean up the mess that their creativity started. If our chakras, throat and thymus, are combining, do we meditate using one chakra from now on? Oh, because as fast as we said that, you remember what happened last night? We dropped into the bumson. This idea that creation is constant is one of your great traps, it isn't. This permanent God, this one with a beard out there, this isn't so. Everything evolves all the time. And because the shifts are so rapid on Earth now, it is very, very difficult for us not to get entrapped. Because we've seen things go on for what seem to be interminable duration. And that is not happening anymore. So to be, quote, in the flow, unquote, is admirable indeed. And how do you do that? You simply become. Turn over your free will to the greater wholeness of who you are. You speak of higher self, over soul, unite. That is not impossible at all. In fact, it's one of the simplest things that we do. That journey, listen to the tapes. Create that connection with who you are as the God source. And bring that in, bring it down, bring it in, bring it down, simply become. No intermediaries. When you need to bring in abundance, bring it in. No intermediaries. When you pray, pray intensely. Otherwise, it's like the singer who hasn't got a microphone. It falls off in front of them. Nobody hears them. That's my case. What about joy and bliss? What about them? Well. Whose bliss and whose joy? Again, I've expressed that one because many times, in particular in Swiss, the Swiss German are very stoic, as you know. The Germans from Bavaria are, and Austrians are hopeless. So joy and spirituality don't necessarily coincide. And I sometimes am very joyful. What about joy and bliss? Of course, they're part of this exchange. I have known for the last month, I've said to at least 3 people, big company, that joy is ours now. It is obtainable. And it resonates so very, very well after the seminar in Portugal, that we can know joy. We will lighten up. This seminar has not been as joyful as I may wish, because the energy we're working in and for. I've explained that. You will begin to understand it when you leave these corridors on your way home. They're absolutely essential. This planet was designed with joy in the mind. In the mind? But it didn't happen, which is truly regrettable. She got stuck. 250 million years ago, there was great joy here. That's not that long ago. It's all the perspective. What about compassion? You'll know what compassion is when you listen to the tape. That's what compassion is. And for all of us to be as compassionate as that energy is with everyone else. Katumi can't do it all. He's supposed to be the 36th Christ. He goes around being compassionate. Nobody else does. It won't work, will it? If Jesus came in and healed a few lepers, that wouldn't work. There are no individual gods anymore. I don't wish to distress you. You are the hope of the future. You always have been. You always gave your power to somebody else. How can we address individual needs of the group as well as planetary? They're identical. The group focus is essential. Some of you have said that you don't work necessarily comfortably with group. Well, you are a group. You're not in isolation, suspended in the middle of nowhere. And I know that some of us feel that way sometimes. You are a group. It's aligning that group and bringing it in. From the signs of the 12-strand DNA, well, I would suggest that one of the great signs is your intuitive connection will develop more and more and more, as we discussed. And universal knowledge, you will feel you know who you are. Many of the fears that you carry reluctantly, you don't carry well into these dimensions. So you release these. I wrote something here, but I can't read it. I'll remember to answer the next question, everything is group. The soul is a group energy. All of creation is a group energy. This perception that we have of the little I, which we magnify to the big I, is a falsehood. Doesn't work. Never did. Never will. You are part of a collective gestalt. Yeah. Oh, we're ripping right on through these. Oh, this is an interesting one. I am concerned about the shadow of darkness that has touched many of our children. As an elementary school teacher, art teacher, I see many of our children touched by this shadow. How can we facilitate the Mahatma Energy to heal our children? The most powerful instrument to heal is to become. Simply becoming and radiating the electrodynamic self. Now, this is something that you cannot see. We have probably a greater ability to be able to see this with you as you go into light. It is very, very contagious, or this program on this little planet would not work. The electrodynamic self the electromagnetic self, I'm sorry. We've had enough of dynamics. You radiate and connect. You radiate and connect, and again, it's the optimum view of the popcorn theory that all people seem to speak of. I'm constantly vibrating. From my feet to my head. Very hard to sleep. This has been going on for many months. I've responded to this. I know others who have also. This, obviously, when your cellular body changes, everything changes, does it not? And if it does not leave, the cellular body goes into light, it has an effect. You first feel it in legs, and after a deep meditation, as we have done, it is a clearing process, and the body begins to go in light. It begins between the two shoulder blades first, to the DNA, the 10th brain, the 10th brain. That's something that all of you can really heighten your sense of achievement if you were to do that. And it takes a couple more, and then we're going to relax, because this is our day for having fun. You've worked very, very hard. Regarding the chakras, we've answered that one. Chakras are not funnels. They're an exact replication, duplication, and enlargement of what? Helices. What is helices? What is helices in the DNA? It's miniature and major, and they tie them together. Helices. Little snails have helices as shells. They must be very enlightened. I think I've answered this question too. Many people are channeling many beings, including the beings who are or have been present here. Well, either way. Is anyone else other than Jenna McClure former channeling of Vaiwama? She still channels Vaiwama Srirang. Where did she go? Where did Janet McClure go if she's not channeling Vaiwama? Where did she go? How much time have we spent talking about a non-death? People go in transition. There's no death. She continues to work with Firewall and she channels Mahatma. Please think through your results. Janamaku is very, very present to those that have worked with her and those who haven't. Again, family. Former channeling of Avoma, so we're speaking of Mahatma Energy. If not, why not? I've answered that. Many have not named Mahatma or identified. I discussed that with you, so that's why I wrote it in. For many, it's simply too powerful an energy when it first ignites with you. It burns. It appears to be overwhelming. That's right. Brian is so wonderful normal. Has no effect on me. I like what it's done for me. I really do. This no mind business is very good. I like it. Get out of the way, they say. It's a he-she now. Got out of the way. Please explain this group process with us. Other seminars which have not been grouped. Well, the basis we've answered that question. Creation is a group. All is a group. You are a group. Good. How should one pray now in this framework, especially when asked to do so by another who is requesting healing? I suggest with great concentration. And these answers are not facetious, just think about them. Prayer has never worked. The communion with God never worked. Your soul was not anchored in your signless. So people were talking to themselves forever. If you want to pray, it's not unlike meditation that is not guided. Your mind gets out of the way. With prayer is profound attention beyond your 5-body or 4-body system. Otherwise it drops off into the emotional. It's like a singer without a microphone. It's all drops in front of you. Will those who do not complete a 12-strand DNA now, if they remain in body during the next decade, be able to be healed? Yes, of course, more so than ever. Again, the electromagnetic business that I speak of is healing in itself. You'll be profound healers, as is Brian. You must know that there's no difference between one and the other. Our journeys are slightly different. I really suggest that as you perfect the instrument, the sheer magnetic will heal. If you have any recall of your abilities, even in Atlantis, you will know that we needed no healers. We were able to heal ourselves. What type of physical changes can we make in the third dimensional level that will assist, augment, and encourage the 12-strand DNA? Well, there's one I know won't work. Being a transvestite and having that operation won't help. Physical changes can we make in the third dimensional level that will resonate? I don't know, I haven't worked in the third dimension for so long. What is the third is all around us? What types of mystical changes can we make? I think we've screwed up badly enough in the third. I would really heartily suggest that we look at the fourth, fifth, and sixth. And then we are profound assistants to everyone. And I don't say that glibly. Look to the fourth, fifth, and sixth. Please. There's one here. Oh, this is a little anger in this one. Are you aware of the opening and activation of the new chakra at the optical ridge of the head? Please give us information about its use and the color associated with it. Well, obviously you have the information and I don't, so you tell us. Refer to the book on openings of the chakras, Mahatma 1 and 2. As you go in Mahatma 2, we go into great detail in the opening. The new chakras are here, here, and here. But particularly here in the sinus and at the base of the feet, right up against the heel. Right against the heel, very sensitive to the solar plexus. If this is the heel of the foot, right there. More info on the emotional body, please. How can we master it? This is a very good question. That's why we've been talking for 3 days. And not suppress it. And what its function is in human lives in connection to the source. One of the strengths of feminine energy is its capacity to experience emotions. Please discuss the relationship between FPOE and the mastery of the emotional body. Well, the first thing we want to do, and particularly with the paper that I'm holding, as this and other people balance their own polarities, not discuss with anger what somebody else is doing. Everyone agrees that's why they have emotions. And what they have become third dimensionally is a runaway train. You do not know how to contain them. So you find fault in male energy, which is easy enough for us girls to do. Working so hard in the FPOE, I don't see this disfranchisement that others are obviously feeling. My heart goes out to those that need express this. But I know it's throughout the earth that this is a problem. This is not angry feminist chatter. And that's often the way it comes out. That isn't going to resolve itself with further antagonism. It resolves itself here between the FPOE and what is its relationship with mastery of the emotional body. In other words, what everyone is saying to you, including the basis of psychology and the basis of your psychiatrist, they make their living on your emotional body. Do they not? Have they ever, other than giving a pill and certain therapy, have they ever helped your emotional body? If I have a toothache and I put in a piece of clove, I can stop the toothache for a moment. This is where humankind gets so confused with the emotional body. Earth's emotional body is easier to deal with because it is your oceans and your seaways. With man, with humankind, it's run rampant. And there is so very, very much anger. So the FPOE, which we've had the privilege of anchoring on Earth, and mostly for this kind of anger, for this outrage with many, not specifically the question. Is to align for mastery, to align and not see a separation between the male and the female, and it's so deep with so many for so long that it's become abrasive, become sore, and it's an ugly bleeding wound. And to heal it is to heal their own dynamic principle of the FPOE. It's complete. It's everything that one needs be not to feel that separation. It's the most wonderful thing. That's why there will be joy. It's the only reason. The greatest reason to balance these polarities, there will be joy on this planet. Once you can accept the fact that they must unite, become one. This does not take away any preoccupation with sexuality. That just adds fuel to it. It is not our belief, as wonderfully as Father Marciniak writes, that one can go from this nature to this nature to this nature unless they are totally balanced. And when they are, they will go nowhere. They will stay within their inner I am. They will not seek outside of themselves, for it isn't there, never was. The soulmate and the only soulmate for balance is within oneself. There is not an external soulmate. That's tough news for many of us. You make a distinction between Lightbody and Merkaba, yes. So what I elucidate. Dr. Hurtak takes the Kabbalarian faith to valid dimension. His teachings are very valid. But he doesn't take one in to the source. He takes them up to the absolute limits of the pyramidal light grid. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a big step. He teaches Merkaba. But many who make their light body now, depends how they're coded. In Brian's coding, there is saw very clearly a 5-sided Merkaba. That's part of my coding. I've done it before. But this is much more elevated in a fifth-dimensional spaceship with Jesus and the people who've all worked for the Space Command at one time or another. So there's different kind of Merkaba, and I suggest that some of you will travel one and some of you travel the other, and I don't know how you're going to be coded. If you're coded for Merk, that's the way you'll go. All of you are going to go into your light body, so that's not the issue. The question is, will they travel Merkaba? Some will and some won't. Depends on your coding. Some will go off into the ships of Jesus. And the Ashtar, you're more familiar with that. It's a much higher vibration than your primary ascension. It's like an intermediary ascension or into the sixth dimension. That's the one that the body is 92% light or more in this new vibration. In other words, it's the universal achievement. Brian, we appreciate you very much, Owen. Very grateful for that. It would help you enormously to discipline yourself to refer to members of the female gender as women or sisters, not girls and ladies. Well, I think that's quite... I do not express myself as brother or sister. And however source comes through, I'm not a trade unionist, I'm not a communist. I don't call you comrade, you don't call me comrade. There are these ambiguities that cling in femininity because they read a book or because they're angry that a name means something. You really must believe. The problem, I'm just your mirror. A lady is a lady. I recognize a lady. We all do. In a covenant, I recognize a sister as part of my dialogue. Sister Teresa. Please don't get caught up in the trite. And do not get angry either, for I'm simply your mirror, whether you're called sister, women, or sisters. If we've offended you, we apologize. It is not part of language that we use, and more often than not, particularly in Europe, Brian makes fun of himself as one of the girls. Repeatedly. So don't misalign your priorities, please. If we have offended anyone, we do apologize. We just would hope that you would pick up your vibration beyond that, please. Oh my God. The 11th ray is, we're referring to FPOE. The 11th ray, 10th, 11th, and 12th, they're not specifically bringing in the FPOE. This one references the 11th because it's a reference in the Kabbalah as feminine energy, Binah. And you all have your beliefs and you come by them honestly. If you relate 7 inches, it's not come on your planet, so it's not something that Kabbalah could speak of. Sirtak cannot speak to the feminine energy, for he knows not of what we are bringing in. I think he's learning. He's said something somewhere. Possible community question on community, socially and politically, creation of genuine community with mutual helpfulness and support, resulting in a world that works for everyone with no one left out, has received increasing emphasis. What did the Great One say to you Oh, heavens to Elizabeth, what do they say? About this. What was the question? A world that works for everyone, I agree. With no one left out. And regrettably monadically it works this way. That's why there's divine equality. But if you look around this world, there's no divine equality, is there? From your finite perception. There's inequality everywhere you look. And this is the trap. And you can't do that until you become multi-dimensional, and you will show this to the rest of the world on sex. Sex is on our minds, is it not? Sex has been described as the most exhilarating experience of the physical dimension. Recently, Yogi Dehai, found of the Greater Center, Kripong, is it, in Lenox, Massachusetts, had to resign after being accused of sexual affairs with 3 members of his staff. That was over a period of time. I would hope so. What do the higher powers tell you? They don't tell me anything. I do not know this energy, and somebody had to mirror something there. Because a man calls himself a yogi, does not think he brings in great energy. Time, gentlemen, please. I think on that sexual prowess, we will take time, if we might. Our love to you. It's great, it's profound. And we're all realigning, we're all working very hard. But what we have said, there is nothing to be taken personally. Cup is ready, soup is ready, and the Bulgarian goulash is out there. Thank you. Oh, this is the lunch break? I gather it's not the end, it's just the beginning. We have a lot to look at, and I stress again that these probably are the most best articulated tapes we have. And thank you, English teacher, for letting me know what I do know. And if I've misused chakra or vortice, it was not our intention. Or helix and helices, I do know. He's not very bright, but that he figured out. But thank you so very much. Your questions were very, very helpful, and I think you'll see in the response that nothing is personal. We are simply a mirror one to the other. And sometimes that mirror is agonizing because we've hung on so very, very long to some of our opinions that they've become a part of us. And anything we shed, if you have a favorite jacket or suit or sweater, it's often difficult to throw it away, is it not? That first doll of yours was almost impossible. Or train or wagon. This sense of hanging on. And the train's gone by, we can't hang on any longer vicariously. We either join it or we don't mutate. This whole business really must be understood, the significance of the feminine principle. The reason for the emotional body not being understood antagonizes many. And the one question many of you say, because you go to another teacher and they deal with the emotional body and you all go through one talking to the other and the other saying, I don't know that this is true, but I suggest it might be. So you go through an emotional cleansing, a mirror with the other, and the other tells you what you think you are or what they think you are. Their impression of you is the mirror. And in rage and anger and in tears, you're supposed to release this emotional body. I don't know of anything better right now than to release it into the heart. And you can do this totally because your chakra systems are changing. We will do that now. He left you stranded with your DNA. And you're saying, where do I put this damn thing? Logic says I'd tuck it here, but I don't know. And we don't like loose ends. We've been taught that logic, or the male part of our polarity, is always right. And we know now, girls, that it isn't, including myself. We have androgyny must not be confused with your sexuality or your emotional body. What it does is balance. And I think there's massive confusion because you emphasize everything that I see on your television or in other countries has a sexual connotation that's not balanced. A glass of beer makes you a sex symbol. And my God, the beauties you collect. And the cowboys you girls get. Or you women, or you ladies. It's the appreciation of being called girls in Switzerland is very profound. The older they are, the more they like being called girls. You have been taught a different, taught in different terms. I'm not going to touch that one with a 10-foot pole. So we all have our points of reference, and we all have our own mirrors. And you cannot misunderstand what we say when we say, and you will listen to it, and you'll hear it over and over again in response to the questions, and the separation that now comes in with the completeness of your I am, through the feminine principle of existence. This is not an outside force, it's a sense of completion. So the imbalance that the receptive felt, to be receptive, it felt it was not complete. And let it embrace the dynamic. And forever it was felt that that made completion. And we've gone in ever-diminishing circles looking for that sense of completion, even when it was unrequited or unfulfilled. We still sought. Because our balance must be out there somewhere. Our fulfillment must be out there somewhere. In order for me to be complete, I must have a husband. This is part of the darkness of this planet. It can be nowhere else but within oneself. Completion isn't out there somewhere with another male or another female. It's within one's androgynous nature, within oneself, within what has inappropriately been called, quote, soul mate, unquote. And breathe in this soulmate, for you're the only soulmate you will ever create. Disappointing? I'm sure it is. We cannot ask somebody else, church, state, or another of humankind to fill that gap. And if you want fulfillment in a relationship, I tell you, when you become complete, there is not the great desire to have that other relationship unless that relationship is valid and in vibration sequencing your own. There's a great one for all of you. Happiness isn't out there somewhere. Always unto thine own self be true. And now more than ever. Because the shifts in consciousness are so very, very rapid. Don't leave your spouse. Don't leave anything. Look at it and become a complete being. How do you do this? You anchor all levels of self. You're building a fabulous channel, this group. You can call on the group anytime, any place you wish, and it'll be there. It's very powerfully infused. Wherever you go. Many of you don't like groups, and that's fine also. But all of it is a group. And particularly now, as we become multi-dimensional, that has many, many connotations, but in truth, the vibration within this atomic body shifts so dramatically that you build a new body. You are building a new body. Some of you have shifts in various parts of your body that's just a little bit disconcerting. You don't like what's happening here. In a number who have been in attendance, with a number who have been in attendance, we actually see new hearts being built. And this really does buffalo the medical profession. They see the x-ray and they see the new heart. How can this be understood with finite man? It cannot be understood, nor is it. But the realities are shifting so dramatically that your scientific community, who have set themselves up as demigods, has authority on creation, on how you happen on the planet and elsewhere. They're being stretched to the absolute limit. And some of your physicists are now saying there has to be a multidimensional matrix. And the others panic. Quite nauseous, sickening to contemplate. That means that everything in physical science has to be rewritten, has to have a new basis. So the group consciousness is being expanded, and the mind is being expanded to the point where it cannot reach or conclude what it thinks it's looking at. It's never intended that mind expand. It can't expand. These helices will allow one to expand to the degree that they have consciousness directly. That was what it was intended, and that's what you've been before. And some of you remember at some level of yourself having been complete, and it was wonderful. And all of you, we repeat, came in at this time to hasten and release all of humankind from their imprisonment. It seems distant, it seems vague. Those that feel so hopeless with the election process and that one vote doesn't count, maybe that vote doesn't count. But I tell you, this vote does count, and it counts significantly. So the faster we connect and not confuse the emotional body, which is supercharged with confusion quite intentionally, everywhere you look, whether it's the stomach turns on your favorite soap, or whether it's somebody's guts being stewed over the desert. Or some ministry healing someone by putting on an additional heel on the shoe so the feet are balanced. It's bizarre. And man desperately, desperately wants to believe that some of this is true. And the closer you look at your relative truth, the more absurd they become. So the outer version of your life, in quotes, is becoming meaningless. It begins to hurt. Despair sets in. Anger. Yeah, very early. Anger. Frustration. And we realize that we can't go further out there. That doesn't exist anymore. The vibration, time isn't what it was, is it? Nothing seems to function as it did. So how do I adjust my rational being? There's only one way, gentle one. That is to live it, to go within, to become. That is being objective. That is objectivity. And from our point of view, here and now, those truths will become a united condition, a united force, much more than Trinity. For we become united with all of creation. There are no limits. There are only perceived limits. The earth can handle the energy now. And that is very much associated with groups such as this. And the rays, of course, have certain assignments given certain beings who have allowed this to unfold. You have worked very, very well, and I'll not have an opportunity at the end to express, or the beginning as you view it, how profound your effects have been for everyone, for all of creation. The heart of hearts adores you. You must feel this, maybe. Lift those clouds that say, I am unworthy. I wish I were greater. What can I do? You can do no more than you have done. For what you have done is quite remarkable. From the source's point of view, incredible. For we've hastened what was considered playing out in the now. See the difference here now. If you have linear time or sequential time when you draw a line from here, from A to what you Americans call Z, Canadians it's Z, English it's Z. So from A to Z or A to Z, you draw a line. Call it sequential time or linear time. And in that, it's a very brief period of time from the source perspective, because one cosmic day is 4.3 billion years, one day. One day from a source perspective. So you take, in this middle, you take 250 million years sequential time out of it. It's not very long from the God source perspective. You don't have to be a Phi Beta Kappa to figure this one out. It's barely a blink. But it's interminable to those that are in physical bodies and who have experienced over and over and over and over again this imprisonment or this sense of limitation or this separation from their truth, which is unalterably always their God source, is it not? That connection, that place of birth. So this brief little period where, in a calculated fashion, the war of light was lost to what we perceive as darkness. Darkness is simply an absence of light, and I want you all to look at that. And so many millions of years ago, a certain number among us, we called ourselves the Goodly Company, said, we will come in and we will heal. And we will make right. And in the now, we projected that. And with the assistance now of having anchored source for this cosmic day on this planet, this will be the resolve. We will create what we came to do. Source is not in the habit of losing. Primary cause, first cause. So this period is coming and has come to an end. As of June 1488, a new beginning, or what you call your harmonic convergence, is sequenced in a linear time frame, so you can equate to that better. Mid-August 87. So now this gap is redefined, and what was isn't. And it's done in many, many ways, and some of you are doing it in your own creative methods. Everything is valid. But above all, your discernment is absolutely essential, for you'll have many, many, many say, this is the truth. We have, at all times on this planet, had many truths. And from a God source perspective, that was fine. Because it wanted to view, quote, many truths, unquote. But we're so far behind in sequencing time, so far behind in fulfilling the 1.2 billion years left in this one cosmic day, that there's been a hastening of the process. And that's where we come in. We step now, if you view sequential linear time as this line between A and Z, it's our programming now, and all the support is with us. And we cannot possibly fail. So alignment is everything in integration. Integration and alignment, everyone. And for the spiritual body, we speak of ascension. Your light body is the ascension vehicles, and we've discussed that this morning. We've discussed the difference between, for some, the Merkaba, the lift up in with the Sananda. These craft are huge. You'll not be left behind. And when you look at your coding, you'll have a better sense of the coding. When you leave your consciousness within your body and you go elsewhere, you will see when you come back. The coding process, whether you understand it or not, is of little matter. You change. And you change dramatically. Your sense of knowledge becomes very profound. And you see now where this 12 strands, where the feminine principle comes in, where the cosmic heart becomes the center of our universe, for it is one and the same at all universes. And you work and live within this cosmic heart. And this cosmic heart, from our point of view, and from all points of view, is perfection. And it's that little thymus gland. So the emotional redistribution, which so many have anguish with, because they've relegated their emotional body to another authority who has them cry or rebirth. I have some very funny stories on that one. But I'll tell you tonight on the airplane. Let's look at these three chakras that are what we say are man-made. That's not completely true, because you were given 2 strands of DNA. But you so concentrated on these 2 because you had no other vehicle to carry. You've done wonderfully many with 2 strands to even connect the soul merge and go slightly beyond. All of you have done that. All of you are going into light. If you have a little resistance, they'll get it on the tape. You cannot do anything else. Not a threat. It's simply the way it is. I'd like to take you to my little island, moving to now. There's miles of sandy white beach. I want you to sit up to your navel or up to your waist in aqua blue water, please.